Welcome to another episode of Dinner Starts Here. This time with John. Thanks for touring us, John.
No problem.
We are touring, it's you, your wife, your son, your daughter, farming pigs at Hogtie Farms. John, I've got my coveralls on. You are a farm that made me shower before I come to work.
Yeah.
Why did I have to shower before I come to work?
It's more for biosecurity and make sure that we don't bring anything from outside into the barn.
So I'm showered up, all scrubbed up. Nice fresh coveralls you've got. Shall we head into the barn?
That's good.
All right, John, we're into one of your 6 farrowing rooms here, where you've got the sow has had in a couple of pens. Pretty little piglets. How old are the piglets in here?
These are about 5 days old.
5 days old, not very big. And question number 1, because I think this is probably one of those black marks that the pig industry fights with a lot, is what this sow is in here called what?
The farrowing crate.
The farrowing crate. So why keep a sow in a farrowing crate?
We keep them in farrowing crates for the protection of the little pigs, so that they have their own little designated areas and the pigs can get away from the mother. And with these farrowing crates here right now, these are lift crates. One of the common pre-weaning mortalities that we get in the sow industry is laid on. And these crates here will lift up about 9 inches. And basically when they're up like that, the little pigs can't get underneath them. And so that when they do lay down again, that they don't get crushed or laid on.
Now, is that a big problem with sows? Like, do they lay on their piglets often?
Well, because there's a lot of them, a lot of times, yes, it's one of the biggest pre-weaning mortalities in the pig industry, and so if we can stop them from getting laid on, this can save up to 75% of your pre-weaning mortality.
You can save 75%
of the laid-ons.
Of the laid-ons by using something like this, where we've got, obviously, it lifting up. Those piglets aren't going to get under now, and therefore, when she lays down, then they can get and they can nurse and do all kind of that natural stuff, but they're not going to get laid on.
That's right.
That's pretty incredible stuff. So then, if these are 5-day-old piglets, John, how long are they going to be in here with the sow?
They stay in here for about 23 and a half days. Is our average weaning days. And so that's pretty much how long they do stay in here, for about 3.5 weeks.
And then you wean them, and we'll go see the next step in a minute. But what are some of the things that, these piglets seem to be kind of right in this spot, maybe on this mat here. Why hang out over here?
Well, that mat there is, there's hot water going underneath there, so it's just like a waterbed for them. It's nice and warm and keeps some pigs warm at 30 Celsius. And when they're first born, we put a heat bulb on top there also, which helps give them some extra heat.
Well, John, so now what part of the barn are we in here?
We call this the gestating barn.
The gestating barn. You've got a group here of some pretty big sows.
Yes.
What are we looking at in this group here?
This is our pre-mixed group of sows that were bred a week ago, and they are getting social interaction to see who the dominant sow is before they get entered into ESF. ESF is electronic sow feeding station that automatically feeds them exactly what they require during their stage of pregnancy. Will identify the sows by their radio frequency identification ear tag.
So now this is, because the rest of the barn that we'll show in a minute here, this is quite a bit smaller a group than what the other ones are getting used to. That's on purpose?
Yes, so we mix them together prior to bringing them into the bigger group to get their social dominance and see which one, so you actually enter them as a group. Otherwise, you can't enter them as individuals because they'll all be fighting as individuals. This way, they enter as a group and stay together as a social group.
They get used to each other, they make their friends, then what?
Then and they stay together as a group for about 4 or 5 days, and they're fed here. And then one morning, all I do is open up the gate and they will all run out into the big group.
Into the big group. And how many are in this group then?
In this group, we have about 125, and they basically are entered in here, basically about 10 every week, and stay in here for the full gestation until they get taken out to go back into the bearing crate.
Mm-hmm. Now in here, you were talking about the feeding system, which I think is pretty fascinating. How do you feed a group of 125 sows in here?
Well, they walk into the electronic feeding station. They get identified by their ear number, and whatever I put into the program as far as feeding them, they will be fed that exact portion. And as they get later on in gestation, their feeding will get increased at day 85, where they'll actually be fed more.
Why is that?
Because that is when the development in the uterus, the pigs start getting developed a lot more, and they'll be getting bigger, and so they require more feed and more nutrition at that stage.
Okay. So then they come through that, and the feeding system's over here. They come through that, and then you've got a couple of fancy doors here. What are they for?
The doors, if I have to sort pigs or take them out for vaccination, or whether they're coming into the bearing crate, I can put in the computer program that I want to sort them individual animals, and as they walk down the corridor, they'll be identified, and the gate will swing the other way, and they'll be sorted for me by the next morning.
Like, so basically either go back to your pen like you were, or come separately so that we can give you whatever attention you need that day.
Yeah.
Oh, neat, so you're not going in.
In here are our gilts. These are the...
What's a gilt then?
Gilt are the first time being bred to become sows.
So they've never had piglets before.
Exactly.
You're raising them up to become sows.
Exactly.
Yep. So now what goes into looking after these ladies?
Well, they also have a bore in the corner there and a heat detector. And here at the same time, I'm actually training these gilts to walk into the ESF. So this is actually a training area to walk through the gate system.
So John, we're on to what you call the finishing side. So that is piglets that have been weaned from the sow, and they're fairly excited with us in here.
Yes.
This pen recently weaned?
They were weaned 5 days ago.
5 days ago. So this is kind of stage one of the finishing process.
Yes, we call this the nursery.
The nursery. So what goes into taking care of pigs in the nursery?
Well, they got to make sure they get good, clean water and access to feed. And during this stage, we actually separate them by weight. And so the heavy ones go on one side, the lighter ones go on the other side. And so we can precision feed them a little bit better. So the smaller ones might stay on a higher protein ration for a few extra days. And then there'd be less competition too for the smaller ones.
Smaller ones. Nobody's going to become a runt with big ones taking over.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And so basically they're in here, and now, oh, they're scurrying off on us. But this looks like a pretty similar floor to what you had in the farrowing side. Is this warmed too?
Yes, it is.
Nice and warm.
It's about 30 Celsius in here.
Yeah.
And then they actually get a little extra heat on the floor also.
So we saw the nursery with the piglets that were weaned. Then they come into areas here where you're basically raising them off before you send them off.
Yeah.
What goes into looking after these?
We basically walk through the barn here twice a day and check to make sure the animals are healthy, they're getting the feed and the water that they require, and there's no problems inside the rooms. And I'm starting to market the pigs. We set the sorter up so that they automatically get sorted to the sorted side, and so I won't have to go in the pen and actually sort them out as individuals. It does it for me.
It's being sorted all the time. Now that sorter, it was sorting them 3 ways. What's with sorting them 3 different ways?
That's so we can feed them more precisely and feed them the protein that they require during their stage of growth, so that we're not wasting protein.
Mm-hmm. And so those pigs, they come into that sorter, and basically depending on what they need, the feed trough that they're going to hit is determined for them.
Yes.
And then when they're done eating and they want to go, they head out the door, and they all are in one big group again until they're hungry, and they walk through.
That's right.
And they just keep cycling through that in a day.
Yeah, we call that the cafeteria area. So they go into the cafeteria area, and when they're done eating, they walk back out through the one-way gate where they would lay down in the bigger area and the loaming area, and if they want to eat and drink again, then they have to go back through that sorter, and then all that information goes to the computer, and then we can keep track of all the animals, exactly how fast they're growing and when they're getting ready for market.
And then when you get them to market, you run them down. I mean, we're kind of in the hallway here. You run them down the hallway and onto a truck, and they're heading where?
To the meat packer, which is my meat packer's Conestoga Meats.
Conestoga Meats.
That's a packer that's actually owned by 170 farmers, so it's farmer owned.
Oh, really? And then from there it goes to, like, I mean, if people are looking for the Van Engelen family pork, what kind of labels are they looking for?
They're looking for Conestoga Meats, and that's in individual grocery stores through here and on Ontario. And we do ship 50% to export also.
Export to where? Like U.S.?
Some goes to U.S., China, Japan.
Really?
Yes.
So pigs right from here in Lambton County, Ontario are going all over the world.
That's right.
That's cool. Well, I appreciate the tour today, John.
Thank you for coming.